Hey nerds, what's up? So I know there are a lot of questions and probably misconceptions about being on YouTube. So I kind of had this idea of why don't I do a sort of transparency report for YouTube and what it's really like to be specifically a booktuber. I'm gonna cover all the stuff I know you guys are curious about, like obviously talking about money. How much do I make being a booktuber? I wanna talk a little bit about why booktubers may choose the content they choose and how they choose it, what the process looks like for uploading a video and getting that done, and also address hate comments and why booktubers will talk about that and whether or not that problem is exaggerated and why there might be a disconnect between what you see and what the creator sees. So I don't know if you're gonna be interested in all that stuff, but I'm gonna just talk about it today in kind of like a transparency way. So we'll get all into that after the jump. Okay, so I'm gonna actually start with the money section because let's be honest, I know that is the thing you guys are most interested in. So before we jump into like the nitty-gritty details, like the actual numbers, there are a couple things we need to talk about. So the first thing I wanna talk to you guys about is how you actually get monetized on YouTube. You don't just start out making money on YouTube. There's actually some requirements you need to meet. And those requirements have changed a little bit, I think, to accommodate people who are mostly doing shorts channels. But one of the ways, and the way it was when I got on YouTube, is that you have to meet the requirement of 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours before you submit like a ticket or whatever to become monetized. Then they'll kind of check out your channel, make sure it's all above board, and then you get to start earning money. That means if you see a channel that their first video blew up and they have like 500 million views but only 500 subscribers, they are not getting paid for that video. Just because you see ads doesn't mean that money is going to the creator. Like YouTube can play ads on videos when the creators are not yet monetized. So for example, the first 7 months I was on YouTube, I didn't make any money. I actually hit 1,000 subscribers, I believe about 5 months in to my YouTube journey, but then I didn't get the 4,000 watch hours till a few months later, which is typical, especially from the kind of content that I create because it tended to be shorter content, so getting that watch hour is going to be harder. Also very typical for booktubers to have more subscribers than views or watch hours versus some other niches on YouTube. For example, if you're like a how-to channel, like a video game how-to channel, a lot of people will probably look up your how-to video and you'll have tons of watch hours, but it's hard to get them to stay and subscribe. Whereas for a book channel, if someone likes your personality or your review, they're likely to subscribe, but then your next 10 reviews may not apply to them. They may not be books they're interested in, they may not be books they have read. And so often I see in this particular niche, you're going to see higher subscribe rates than views. This leads really well into the next mini topic, which is how you make money on YouTube, which is that it has nothing to do with your subscriber count. It has everything to do with your views. More views means more money. Now, obviously, people with higher subscriber counts probably in general get higher views. But if you have a channel with low subscribers that has hit monetization but has millions of views, they are making much more money than someone who has more subscribers but substantially less views. Okay, and finally, the last thing I need to cover before we get into the nitty-gritty is that I probably make less money on here than other people at my subscriber size. And I want to talk about that before we get into the numbers because I don't necessarily think they could be typical of YouTubers my size. And there are 3 main reasons I probably make less money. The first being that I don't do any mid-roll ads. So when you turn on monetization for your video, you can choose whether to just have ads at the beginning and end of your video or also mid-roll in the middle to interrupt the video. I have always prioritized growth and engagement. I really want to increase my retention numbers, so I have never done a mid-roll ad. And it's actually funny, as I was preparing for this video, it's like YouTube read my mind. They gave me a little like advertisement thing saying that I could make 40% more if I did mid-roll ads. That seems like an exaggeration to me personally, but yes, that would bring in more money and I don't do it, so there you are. Number 2, I basically take no sponsors. And in fact, till 2 months ago, I could say that I had never taken a sponsor. What I'm about to say might sound like shade to other creators, and it absolutely isn't. YouTube is a ton of work, and if someone is gonna pay you to do it, I say take the sponsor. I have no judgment. Honestly, you should be encouraging YouTubers to take sponsors because it helps pay them for the work. I just have a really hard time talking about things like that I just don't care about or that I would never use. I just have a really hard time with it. So even though I've been approached for a lot of sponsorship stuff, I've just always said no because I wasn't interested in it. So the 2 sponsors I actually took this year were because they were things like I actually would A, use myself, and B, are like things that I really believed in. Sponsors are probably a significant portion of a lot of people's income. You'll see the numbers later as I detail them out, but basically those single sponsors that, you know, I had to put in my video for 1 minute gave me the same amount of money on a single video that I usually make in a month at YouTube. So if I took more sponsorships, that would also probably affect my bottom line quite considerably. And finally, last but not least, number 3, I don't have a Patreon. I haven't made one yet. I probably will make one in the future, just when I feel like I have time or kind of wanting to do that. But Patreon is probably a huge source of income for many people. Put it simply, let's say I had even 500 patrons, all at the lowest patron level, which I think is $1. That would be an extra $500 a month, which, as you will see, is more than I make in an entire month on YouTube. So things like Patreon and sponsorships and mid-roll ads would probably buffer somebody of a similar size as me to make a lot more money than what I make. Okay, finally we made it. It's number time, baby. So here's the graph of my 2020, which would represent my first 6 months I was on YouTube. Not much here. Let's move on. Yeah, I didn't make any money in the first 6 months of YouTube in 2020. So then in 2021, I got monetized. You'll notice though that I started making a lot more money in November. What happened in November? The first season of Wheel of Time. Those Wheel of Time videos gave me a lot higher views than normal and a significant jump in subscribers as well. So you can obviously see that reflected here. Overall that year, you can see I made about $1,200. Now, if we move on to 2022, you don't see as much of like a jump in revenue. There's not as many spikes. I did make more money just overall. I made under $2,000 and it was just much more consistent. There is a little jump later in the year. I think those jumps are probably from a couple of videos that perform better than usual, like my best adult fantasy video and my lost metal video. I also covered Rings of Power, but unlike Wheel of Time, those didn't really bring in a ton of new subscribers or viewers. I think like a lot of more people just kind of gave up on that show. And finally, we can see my most recent graph, which was in 2023. And this was the first year I had like a significant jump in revenue, making about $3,500, which averages to about $290 a month. Now you can see that I made more money in the latter half of the year than in the front half, but it's easier just to divide it evenly, you know, to make things simple. This year, I also took 2 sponsors, which each paid me $300 each for a total of $600, bringing up my year total to $4,100. The jumps in this year are actually extremely easy to pinpoint. Once again, we had Wheel of Time Season 2, and also my Song of Ice and Fire content that did very well, actually much better than I expected, and just garnered more views and subscribers overall for my channel. I also want to mention very quickly that you get paid way more for views per video than views per short. If I take my highest performing short on here, which actually has more views than my highest performing video, you will clearly notice that I made much more money on my lower viewed full-length video than I did on a short. Just to kind of give you an idea of people who are mostly running shorts channels, that it'll look very, very different. Okay, so that basically means over my 3.5 years on BookTube, I have grossed about $7,300. Now, before we go into my expenses, you might want me to kind of make a comment about like free stuff I've been given, which could be considered monetary in nature. I actually haven't been sent that many free books, like traditionally published authors. Yeah, I was looking on my shelf and I was like, I think I've been sent 5. I have been sent 2 arcs for the last 2 books in the Dandelion Dynasty from Ken Liu. Mark Lawrence sent me his new book last year, The Book That Wouldn't Burn. I got sent a book from Tor, Max Gladstone's new book from Tor that I did a review on. And then Dragonsteel sent me a PR box with Tress of the Emerald Sea. Now, the Tress of the Emerald Sea PR box, which I was obsessed with, this better make me sound grateful, not ungrateful at all. Like, it's so cool. I mean, I display it back there. You can see the box I still display because I thought it was so cool and etched, and the cup they gave that went with it. It was incredible. But I had purchased Trust myself as well. I backed the Kickstarter with the hardback versions, so I technically already owned the book. Again, so grateful they sent that to me, so I'm not trying to come off ungrateful. Just saying that I did. I would have already owned that book regardless. Then I also, subscribers, I used to have an Amazon wish list. I took it off my videos about a year and a half ago. But I did probably get about 10 books sent to me from subscribers. I stopped doing that because I felt so guilty when I couldn't read them right away, because you guys were sending me books and then it would take me months to read them, and it just filled me with guilt and I hated it, so I took it off. So overall, I've probably been sent like 15 to 20 books, but I also in my expenses don't include any of the books I bought for the channel. Now, mostly that's because I probably would have been buying a majority of those books anyway, because I'm a book reader and I didn't start reading books to get on YouTube. Like, I've been reading them my whole life. But there have been books I did specifically buy for the channel, specifically with SPFBO. We're only given digital copies of the finalists, and I prefer physical. So I bought every finalist in SPFBO myself, which are books I wouldn't have bought if it wasn't for the channel. So I just feel like in general, in my place right now, the book situation is a wash. That was a long way to describe that, but here we are. Okay, so let's quickly talk some expenses, which I've just rounded to like the nearest multiple of $5 just to make things a lot easier, to kind of get an idea of what I've really netted on YouTube. So in my first year, I bought my first camera. Well, actually, Zach bought it for me to force me to get on YouTube, and that was a Canon PowerShot, and that cost $530. I also bought a ring light off of Amazon for $135. I paid someone to come up with my 2 different logos, my banner, and my moving graphic in the beginning, which was an artist on Instagram, and I paid her $250 for that. And then I also ended up buying the song in my little intro, my little clapping song, for $30. I actually used that free for a while because it was from a website that if you credited them, you could use it for free. But then when I realized I was going to keep using it, I was just like, I don't want to paste this in every description box, so I'm just going to spend the $30 and purchase the right to the song. So that was my first year of expenses. I already owned my microphone for like singing projects my husband had done, so I'm not counting that because I didn't buy it for YouTube, and I just used free editing software and a computer I already owned. So that was my first year of expenses. My second year of expenses, I did a camera upgrade. Actually, my husband surprised me with a camera upgrade, but that was the Sony Alpha, and that was $1,100. And he also bought me a lens, the Sigma 30, to go with it for $285. I did invest in Final Cut Pro, which was just $200, and a tripod for $45. Yes, I hadn't been using a tripod previous to the second year. So that was my second year of expenses, was my biggest year in expenses, for sure. Finally, this last year, my third year on YouTube, I only did a lighting upgrade from my ring light to the Luma Cube Studio Kit, which was $350. I also purchased Apple Motion for $50, which is basically like an add-on to Final Cut Pro. Now, there are a couple other expenses we need to talk about, which are what I'd call recurring costs. So for about 2.5 years now, I've used Epidemic Sound, which is where I get all of my sound effects, all of my music, everything there. And that is $17 a month, so that's cost $510. And then also Motion Array, which I've just done for the last year, which I got to try to make my editing more fancy. You get kits. For the biggest sample I can use of this, like I used Motion Array and got multiple kits to do my text message beginning of my Storm of Swords video. Things like that to kind of make my stuff look more professional, since I don't know how to make that stuff myself. And that costs me $29 a month, so that's been $360 for a year. Now I'll say, you guys, quick aside here, saved my life, because I was looking at those two and I'm like, those are so expensive every month. Like, do I really need them? And I was looking and realized, because I had started free trials of them and then decided I liked them and wanted to use them, it rolled over in month to month. There are ways you can just pay for a full year of it that is so much cheaper. So I have fixed that. Now I'm only paying $119 a year for Epidemic Sound, which is about $9.99 a month. And for Motion Array, I paid for a whole year, so now it's only gonna be $19 a month. So you guys saved me money. Doing this video saved me money. Real talk real quick, Epidemic Sound I'm not gonna get rid of because I feel like I use it a lot. Motion Array is a lot harder. I'm basically at this point paying to use like the 3 kits I downloaded for them, because what happens is that your videos get greenlit, you give them your channel, and when they can recognize you're using their stuff, they kind of pass off your videos. If you stop paying for the service, even though I've already downloaded those assets, I cannot use them in the future. So it's really frustrating to feel like I'm paying $19 a month to use the same 3 assets. So I think I need to find a way to like recreate those on my own in Motion, or just pay someone, or find similar ones and just pay for it one-time cost would probably be better. And doing this video made me think I should look into doing that. It is hard though, because I don't always know what I want to do in the future. Like that text message thing came to me and I was nice having Motion Array to do that. So yeah, I might cut out this aside. I'm sorry, it's too much information. My last reoccurring cost I did pay for StreamYard for just a year. This is canceled at this point. So it cost me $240 to not use the free StreamYard version. I did that specifically for my Ken Liu interview because I was really stressed about it and I wanted to make sure everything worked out. And then I kept it on, and there's a lot of great things in StreamYard when you pay for it. I just do not do lives enough. Like, I think I only did 3 lives that year. It totally wasn't worth the money. If I streamed all the time, I think it would totally be worth it, but I don't. So I canceled that at the year mark, and I'm only going to use the free version going forward. Okay, so the total is $4,085 in my expenses, which means my net over my lifetime of YouTube is $3,215. That's what I've made. As someone who didn't get into this to make money and really just kind of wants to like grow and have retention and, did it as a hobby, I feel neutral about this number. Like, in a lot of ways, I think it's a lot more than I ever thought I'd make when I started. On the other hand, let's talk about how long it takes me to make videos before we really decide what that number means. So my video process for me is not including the books I read. I don't include the time it takes me to read a book, but essentially is research, script writing, filming, editing, thumbnail, and then the upload process, like writing descriptions and all the links and stuff like that. For the simplest videos where like research isn't needed and it's, maybe just like a book review and it's pretty short, these videos are probably taking me entire process about 10 hours. Now for my most difficult videos, this process could take up to 40 hours. I think 40 is the longest I ever spent on a single video, and it was my Way of Kings Prime comparison video. That took a ton of work to organize all those thoughts into like a coherent video and edit that down. It's also my longest video. Now there are shorter videos that take me a really long time because sometimes being concise is harder than not being concise. 2 great examples of these would be my Wheel of Time comparison videos and any of my All Cosmere mentioned videos. It takes me a really long time because I first have to keep track, so I'm taking notes while I'm reading or watching just as it's happening. I'm taking notes of everything I'm seeing. Then at the end, I have to go through all those notes and organize them in ways that make sense. Especially with my Cosmere videos, like how do I group things together in a way that makes sense? Then after that, I have to go fact check myself on everything that I've written, which takes a really long time. And then in Wheel of Time's case, I have to pull video clips for all the things I'm going to talk about, which takes a while. And then I edit it down to be as concise as possible. And put it together. So those actually surprisingly take a very long time. But I'd say on average, I probably spend about 20 hours per video that I produce every week, which as a hobby is kind of a lot. It's basically a part-time job that I'm doing on my hobby. And this year, if we don't look at my past years, if we only consider this year where I made about $300 a month, that means per hour, I'm making about $3 an hour, which is honestly a lot more than I expected. So I'm happy. Let's be honest, that was probably the thing you were the most interested in, and I get it, that's cool. But there are a couple other things I did want to talk about YouTube, and the one I want to talk about right now is how creators choose content, kind of giving you a little bit more perspective on why creators you watch might choose the things they choose. I definitely see a lot of people complaining like on Reddit or in Discords about creators when they decide to pivot what they are doing to kind of, in these people's opinions, like chase views. All they care about is views. And so I'm going to talk to you about a little something called the algorithm, which is the thing all creators blame, but it is to blame. I'm going to stand by that. Okay, but to be in all seriousness, if you want to grow, you do need to listen to the algorithm in some way, and it can punish you for things you wouldn't expect. One of the big ones that I guess none of us can prove, but so many creators have talked about, is being punished when a video vastly underperforms. So if you have videos that are performing well, your next video will be pushed to more people and will probably likely perform better. But if you have a video that tanks, then your next video likely will suffer because of it. It will be pushed to less people, less new viewers. Sometimes your subscribers will even stop being notified of your videos. I had several people tell me that when I went into a big views lull, that they just like stopped getting notified of my videos, which was hard, hard. And so it's not just that creators are like, can never have a video that's just about something niche that no one cares about because you just only care about the money. The thing is like, if you make a video that you care about that has terrible views, it could affect all of your future content too, which is really hard. Now for me, who's not trying to make a living off of this, I can kind of be stubborn about it sometimes and just like, ugh, even though it annoys me, give up on it. But for the creators that are making a living on this and need it to be consistent, that is like a big deal. If every video was in a vacuum in the algorithm, it'd probably be a lot easier for creators to be, more experimental. But as it is, it can be kind of scary. Also, just the way YouTube presents your analytics doesn't help. It almost kind of gamifies it. It really pressures you and gets in your head about if you're doing worse. It shows you in your last 10 videos how your current video is doing in views at the same amount of time. So I'll show something on screen, but it's like, okay, in the first 7 hours, this new video, it's performing 6th best. It's performing 10th best. Like your other 10 videos before this performed way better at this point. And that's hard, especially when you see it fall. Like some of my videos will do really well in the beginning and then like, they'll just like stop getting views. And so then they stop pushing it and then it just dies. And then on the converse side, if you get a video that's number 1, which I won't be able to show this unless, my current video is at number 1, so I won't. But if you get a video that's performing the best out of all the rest, it gives you literal fireworks. There are fireworks when you come to the page. Literally, like animated fireworks. Like, great job, you did it. And they also have all these little symbols like showing you like views are up, but retention's down. You're doing just about average, about the same amount of viewers are clicking through to this. And it's hard to ignore. I actually think Daniel Green did a video on this a while ago because I remember watching it. I could not even tell you what video that was. Maybe I'll try to find it. I doubt I'll be able to. And I just remember being like, yes, I understand everything you're saying. So I think he talked about this, like how in your head you get when you see these analytics. It's really hard to just be like, don't care. Anyway, my point is like, try not to be so hard on creators who pivot. I know it can be really hard because it's happened to me when creators you love decide to do different content than what you fell in love with them for. But I just have so much empathy for it and just know that, there's a good chance that they love what they're doing now as well. And it's also more conducive to their channel. So when those things come together, it kind of just makes sense for them to pivot, especially if they're making their livelihood on it. Okay, and finally, as the last part of this video, I want to talk about hate comments. And I hope you do not mind that I'm going to start us out with a little story time. I have been following a very large YouTuber for a very long time. Her name is Sophia Nygaard. I'm sure many people have heard of her since she has 10 million subscribers. But I started following her, I think, when she had like 100 or 150,000, which is a lot, but compared to her now seems like very small for what she is. So I've been following her for years and years. And in 2020, she took kind of a large break. Obviously, we all weren't in a great space in 2020. But she kind of, I think it was a blog post that I read, she kind of released this statement about why she had taken a break. And one of the factors that she talked about was hate comments. She talked about how it was really getting in her head and it was really difficult to read these comments, and she kind of needed to take a step back. And at this time, I'm guessing she had a couple million followers. She was definitely smaller than she is now, but still very big. And I remember thinking, that's kind of interesting, because like I've watched every single one of her videos and I read a ton of her comments. Like I scroll for a long time and I had never seen a single mean comment ever. And she doesn't make controversial content. Her content's like very lifestyle content. It's very well done. It's great. It's like general content. Like it's not controversial topics. And I just thought, like, I don't really know what anyone would be saying rude about her stuff. And I've never seen a rude comment. So I was like, maybe she's gotten like 1 or 2 on a couple videos. And like, that's kind of surprising to me. I thought she could just kind of shake off like 1 or 2 hate comments, but like some people are more sensitive. That's harder for some people. Like that, I don't think I'd be affected by a few comments like that. Like, that's kind of interesting, but I think we're gonna know where this story goes, huh? Then I became a YouTuber and I found out the reality, which is that what you see as a viewer is vastly different than what the creator sees. When you go to a video, you may not realize it, but comments are auto-filtered by top comments. And top comments are things that have been upvoted the most. They may be by commenters that the creator has interacted with a lot. They may also just be channels that are known to constantly get upvoted comments. Like, you may not realize this, but I actually talked to a YouTube representative that like a lot of times comments can be hidden by users that even if they are not putting nasty comments in any way, but have a history of like downvoted or bad comments, these can be more hidden. So the top comments are supposed to be like the best comments, and those last for a while. So if you're not sorting by new, and there's no way to sort by like controversial or downvoted, you are seeing the best comments. And the bigger a channel is, and the more comments there are, the likelihood that you are just seeing the best comments, even if you scroll for a while, like that's all you're going to see. You see curated comments. You wanna know how creators see comments? We just see them right as they come in. We can't turn off like viewing comments for old videos or controversial videos. Like we have to see every comment right as it rolls in. And we even sometimes get notified and read comments before YouTube has a chance to censor them because they're so terrible. Just like as a side note, even with all comments turned on, YouTube will still remove and hide comments that go against their terms and conditions. I think they did that as a part of a way to clean up the comment section. So I don't even have a choice in that. And sometimes I've been notified for terrible comments, so I read them, and then when I go to find them, they're gone because YouTube has filtered them out so that nobody else can see them. So what you and I see, vastly different. And I started finding out that no matter how innocuous the video, no matter how positive the video, no matter if it was about the stupidest or silliest thing, you will get a hate comment for it. And it's exhausting. I honestly don't even know how Sophia functions. And I also started realizing why so few bigger creators make comment on their comments anymore. It used to be my goal to reply to every single comment I got because I just was so appreciative of all of them. And I literally had to stop that for my mental health because the comments were getting so nasty. And unfortunately, as I've grown in the last year, my ability to interact with my comments has become even less. I've actually had to institute basically a new policy for myself, which is to try very, very hard to ignore my back-end comments and wait a few hours and just go to my actual video screen and reply to the comments I see there. So basically to view comments the way that my viewers view comments and kind of respond to as many as I feel like I can get to and then stopping. This is obviously a huge bummer for me as a creator because mostly those top comments are probably going to be from people who got to watch my video right away, which isn't very fair. I got different time zones. There's just people, going to take a while, and they have great, awesome comments that I often miss. But I literally had to do it to protect myself. You have to trust me. You cannot imagine how it feels until you're in that spot, because I have never considered myself a sensitive person. In fact, there has been a joke among my friends and my family for a long time that I'm heartless, that I'm not sensitive. I'm not prone to being affected by those things. And so it's been so shocking how upsetting it is. And it can be not even just random rude comments. It can all just start affecting am I an idiot if this many people are calling me that? Or a great example of why, for example, my Wheel of Time comments are often so exhausting is when people are yelling at you for completely different things. So those would often, I get comments calling me nasty names and yelling, saying that I'm an Amazon shill, that I'm a fake fan, that I can't believe I liked anything of it. I'm just saying that to get views and I'm a total sellout. In the same video, I'm having other comments calling me nasty names and yelling at me that I'm a stupid book fan who would never be pleased with anything, and I should get off this channel because you're an idiot who can't even appreciate TV, and why do you have to be so negative all the time? Having to read those comments sometimes back to back, when logically in your head, I would just tell myself well, it's just because I did pros and cons and that's a very normal thing to do. It's so exhausting. And then the worst part is when I even mentioned that in a Wheel of Time video that I might not be covering season 3 because I just got fed up with it. Then I had 2 or 3 comments accusing me of lying. They said, well, I've never seen a mean comment on any of your videos, so you're a liar who just wants attention. That's what someone told me. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. And you have to take my word for it. You just cannot understand how it feels until you experience it. And I know that because I thought the same thing about those other creators. I thought, man, they're just really sensitive. They can't handle it. And then I met the internet and yep. I guess my point here is just believe creators when they say things like that. Just because you aren't seeing it, creators have to interact with their channel in very different ways. Yeah. It's my PSA. Okay, if you made it this far into this video, congratulations and thank you for listening to my ramblings. I hope that helped you understand the experience of being a YouTuber a little more. If you watched the money portion, let me know what you thought about that. Did anything surprise you about how I make money or how other creators make money or any part of that process? Or my expenses, any questions about that? I'm happy to answer any of those questions. If you want to talk about why creators choose what they do, or my process, or hate comments, let me know below. And even if you just kind of liked this transparency report, if that was interesting to you, let me know. I'm very grateful you guys are here. It's because of you guys that my channel has grown so big. I would have never imagined being here. And I know that's because of you guys watching and commenting, and I really do appreciate you. I realize that kind of ending on hate comments is a downer for the most part. I find you guys just some of the most willing to engage with me and discuss, and some of your guys' comments are just so insightful. I feel so grateful that you guys are willing to engage with some of my weirder topics and tell me your research and tell me your expertise. Like, I love it so much, and it's so rewarding. So I don't want you to think like it's just the negative. I wouldn't still be doing it if the positives didn't like vastly outweigh the negatives in that department. So thank you. As always, if you like these kind of deep dives, please like and subscribe. That is the best way to support me. And if you want to see what I'm currently reading, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.